So starting actually official interview with most common questions asked nowadays about pandemic. So how would you say how Turkey is effective in fighting pandemic and effective in fighting disinformation?
Well, the pandemic, of course, has hit all of us in a very bad way. All around the world, you've had millions of people who've died, hundreds of thousands of people still ill all over the world, and we're all racing against time in order to be inoculated and in order to be having a herd immunity in all of the countries. Turkey is one of them. So far, we've had 97 million doses of vaccinations in Turkey. Our population is 84 million.
97 million. Okay, so it's even higher than the population.
Yes, we have one of the fastest rates of inoculation around the world, and we have a system where people who work, for example, in the health system, people who work in the education system, people who work in banks, people basically who work in public sector where they deal with people have to be inoculated. And so if you're working in the private sector, or if you're not working, etc., if you're a student, university student, etc., you're free to choose. You can do whatever you like. But if you're going to be working, serving people in the public sphere, you have to be inoculated in Turkey. And now we've gone down, I think it's like in Poland, I think it's age 12 now. We are inoculating people who are of age 12 now, and people who are working in the tourism sector. So more and more Poles go to Turkey on holiday. So when they go, the people who are going to be working with them in the hotels and environment, etc., they've all been inoculated twice. So we have a high rate, but nevertheless, because it's a very infectious pandemic, the Delta variant is affecting Turkey as well. So now most of the problems we have is with Delta, and now schools are starting. So I think it's going to be the same in Poland. As everybody comes back to work from holidays, schools are starting, universities are starting, so people-to-people interaction is going to increase. Therefore, we believe that increase in the numbers we will definitely see towards the end of September and October. I presume the same will happen in Poland as well. But let's see what the figures are.
So we're going to watch carefully.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and are there any issues related to anti-vaccination movement? For example, in France, there are a lot of protests, a lot of people that they don't want to get vaccinated.
Well, there are people who are questioning whether the vaccines are actually working or not. Some people are also questioning about the new technologies being applied in some of the vaccines, because you know that there are two types of vaccines. One of them is used using the illness itself, and traditional vaccine where they take the illness and they produce an antidote using the illness itself. And there's this new, the mRNA, I think, system. And people are a little bit scared of that because they don't know what's going to apply. They don't know what's going to be applied, and they don't know the consequences of what will happen a couple of years down the line. So some people are skeptical, but we don't have the same sort of reaction that you see in other countries. People who don't want to be vaccinated are not vaccinated, but they're not complaining out in the streets, for example, or there's no manifestations as such.
I understand. Okay, so jumping into economy, because throughout the years, and I mean, it is not a current challenge that Turkish currency lira's depreciation. Is it even considered as a challenge in current year nowadays? And what's governments and society's attitude towards this challenge? How Turkish people take care of their savings, for example?
Well, this is a good question. It's a very technical question. But the currency itself has been stable for some time now. It's around 8 lira, 8.4, 8.5 lira per dollar. So it's been stable at that for quite some time. Of course, it depends on how you look at the situation. if you're a country that is exporting a lot, having a weak currency is good for your exports.
And I guess that was the strategy throughout.
But from the other side, if you have a weak currency, some of the items that you're going to buy in order to produce is going to be expensive. So it's a give and take situation. Which one is better, which one is not. In our case, this year, for example, in the second quarter of this year, we grew by 21.7%. So this is the second highest growth rate in the OECD countries. Sorry, in the G20 countries. The UK, Great Britain, was number one. They grew by 22.2%. This is in comparison to the same quarter the year before. So we were able to grow during the pandemic, and so we didn't have a going down, a negative impact of the pandemic. Of course, our growth rate slowed down tremendously, but now we're picking up. The IMF, Moody's, and some other institutions are saying that we will grow around 6.5% this year, but the IMF and Moody's are never correct. At the end of the year, they always remedy their predictions concerning Turkey. It always comes up about 2% better than what they predicted. We're one of the countries where they really failed miserably. And this year, our belief is that we said that we would grow around 8%. With the last quarter results that came out, it looks like as if we're going to grow by about 9 to 10%. So it's a huge growth rate. Tourism is a very big area for us. For example, we had 900,000 Poles visiting Turkey before COVID struck. And during COVID, the numbers plummeted quite a lot. But now we're picking up again. I think we're either number one or number two destination for Polish tourists coming to Turkey at the moment. And we believe that it's going to pick up quite a lot. So as far as inflation is concerned, inflation numbers are high in comparison to most other European countries. But our debt ratio is very low in comparison to many European countries, many EU countries. Like the public debt is well below 60%. So that's good in some sense. Our current account deficit was very high, but now it's going down very fast. And this is due to the exports rising, more revenues coming in from tourism. But of course, we are a country we don't have natural resources that we sell. So basically, we need to produce and sell. And amongst the production, we are moving up a scale in our production of the products that we're selling abroad. So it's becoming more and more, final products are becoming higher end final products in industrial output, in services, in engineering, and whatever. And of course, for that, you need a lot of very good parts coming in order to assemble them or in order to put them, you don't produce everything in your own economy. So you have to bring them in, produce something as an end result. And there, of course, we have a lot of problems because our currency is weak in terms of foreign currency. But we offset that with final sales.
Okay.
That's how it's going.
Lately, I've heard that Turkey government undertake many infrastructure investments. Is it true?
Yes. It's one of the important sides of Turkey. Turkey in the last 20 years has done. It's like Poland, but you've done it with a lot of help from the EU. You've had a lot of structural aid. You've had a lot of cohesion aid. And you've had a lot of solidarity, with this, with that, etc. Within the context of Turkey, we've had to do it ourselves and by borrowing, basically, and doing with our own resources. Now, for example, I can give you examples in terms of infrastructure. We have now, I think it's the second biggest airport in the world after the Chinese. For some time, Istanbul was the biggest airport. Now it's the second biggest airport. And it's only 2 units of the airport is already operational. And already 90 million tourists can use the airport per year. There's going to be 2 more units coming in. Another project is we built 3 of the largest bridges in the world. crossing the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles. We've done very big underwater tunnels connecting the two sides of Asia and Europe in Istanbul, so connecting them underwater. Our network of trains and fast trains have grown by about, I think, 400 to 500% in the last 20 years. Network of roads, it's incredible. If we had, let's say, I'm quoting as just as a figure to give you a comparison. If we had 2,000 kilometers of motorways, for example, today we have 40,000 kilometers of motorways, for example. It's the amount that we've put on emphasis on infrastructure is crazy. It's one of the fastest developing infrastructure networks in the world. China obviously has done incredible, but Turkey is also an example. Another example is in terms of health. For example, we've done incredible work on health because what we've done is that we've created big hospitals. People were saying, why are you creating such big hospitals in big cities? The reason was that, like, this is Turkey. It's like a rectangle, if you see it on the map. And Ankara is around here. Istanbul is around here. And you have Izmir, and you have Antalya, Adana, Diyarbakir, etc. So you had big towns, major towns. Anybody who lives around these major towns and the smaller towns, if there was something extremely important that they had to, like a heart transplant or a brain surgery or something like that, they needed to go to the big cities. Whereas what we did was, instead of these people going to these big cities where there's a lot of big hospitals, we did regional hospitals in between. And those regional hospitals now created an environment where people from any of these districts, where they no longer need to go to the nearest big city, but they go to the nearest regional hospital, which is probably much more near to them than in the big city.
So, if I understood well, it's been planned by geographical scheme.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So basically, near where there's a demand, where we see a fluctuation of people going to the big cities. You know, if the small hospitals in small towns are not able to cater for them, they need to go to the bigger cities and bigger hospitals. But we've created now regional hospitals where they don't need to fly all the way to Istanbul or Ankara or this or that. So now they go to the regional hospitals. And this has really proven itself during COVID, because it helped out with the hospital beds. Any one of these hospitals has a bed capacity of around, starting from 500 to 3,500 hospital beds each. They're huge hospitals.
Yeah, and if it connects with transport infrastructure,
Yes.
it will pay off.
Yes.
Pay off.
They're all connected. They're all
Okay.
connected. They're all connected by railways and road networks. So Turkey is it's a G20 country in economic terms. I think we're either 16th or 17th largest economy in the world. And although our purchasing, when you look at the per capita income, it looks lower than some other countries. When you look at, in reality, what is the PPP, purchasing power parity, it's higher than most European countries. So it's an interesting country. And it's developing fast. But we've had, in the last 2 years, a little bit of a, how can I say, it's not stagnation, but slowing down of the growth due to COVID and other reasons of geopolitical issues happening within our region.
Also, I guess central bank raised the effective rates.
Yes, those are two technical questions for me. You can answer these questions better than I can. You're the specialist.
Okay, so I suggest going to international policy right now. Maybe about the Middle East situation. Like throughout the years, we saw destabilization of Middle East, starting from Syria, going to Iraq, now Afghanistan. And do you think, Mr. Ambassador, that is there any chance of any stabilization in forthcoming years?
Well, the Middle East, when you look at the Middle East, it's not just the Middle East. I think the whole world is going through a period of change. When you look at how things are changing between the superpowers, you look at the fact that China has become a superpower. It's challenging the US and the EU and Russia and others in terms of how big it is and how developing it is, etc. And if you look at the fact that the world center, the gravity of the world, the center of gravity of world economics is moving eastwards all the time. Things will change. Things will change slowly. You have a lot of problems, not only in the Middle East, but in the Far East as well. But in the Middle East, when we look at the Middle East, of course, there's always been traditional players in the Middle East. And of course, there's a lot of countries that are being torn apart due to internal structures, but also external demands put on them, and also due to energy resources, water resources. So there are many questions. You have problems here in the Baltics. You have problems, with your neighbors here as well. And it's the same in the Middle East. It's a lot of geopolitics, it's a lot of hard politics, and it's a lot of local politics as well. And don't forget that in the Middle East, things are never that easy because the populations are very mixed. In any country, there's a huge disparity between, who's the dominant ethnic group or religious group, etc. And you might find 20 different ethnic groups in one country. So it's easy for anyone to play around with these countries, pushing them or pulling them in one direction or another.
Yeah, so we have touched population. According to this Middle East situation, does Turkey expect next huge wave of migration? And maybe is there any plan considered with protecting southern and western, northwestern, eastern actually borders?
Well, we have a tradition in Turkey. It's a hospitality tradition. When you look at Turkey, when you go to Turkey, you will see that the Turkish society is very mixed. You will find that in Turkey there are people of Balkan origin. More people of Balkan origin live in Turkey than all the Balkans put together. So when the Bosniaks say, I'm from Bosnia, there are more people in Turkey who are of Bosnian origin than Bosnia, or more Albanian origin Turks than Albania, for example. And in Turkey you have Turks, you have Kurds, you have Armenians, you have Jews, you have all sorts of national Caucasus. If you say you're Chechen, you're Circassian, you're this, you're Dagestani, etc., there are more people of those origins living in Turkey than the whole of Caucasus put together. So Turkey has always been a country, but also a geography, when you look at it, in between East and West. Always the crossroads from the Silk Road. Before that, we are, as Turks, we are the 28th civilization that is living on that land. From St. Paul onwards, you have so many different religions, you have so many different ethnic backgrounds, etc. So it's a very mixed population, and because of that, we have a tendency to say, if you're in a dire situation in and around us, and if you're coming to us, we are open. And the government has kept an open border policy. We have approximately 5 million refugees. No other single country in the world has that many refugees in comparison to their population. And we are taking care of not only them, but also don't forget that we're also taking care of approximately 9 million people in north of Syria. So 14 million people are being upkept. Now that is the first big wave that we saw that was coming in from Syria in 2015 due to the ongoing war there. Now the big threat, of course, in Afghanistan is, will there be a second wave? Now people are very anxious. Look, we already have 300,000 Afghan refugees in Turkey. You're talking about 4,000, 5,000. Look at the reaction in the street. Look how you read it. Look how you react. We already have 300,000 already. But we said enough. So in what you're doing, for example, with your border with Belarus, we're also doing with our border with Iran. Because what they do is they cross from Afghanistan to Iran, and from Iran they come to, like they come from Belarus to Poland, same, they come from Iran to Turkey. So what we did is now we're building the wall and also guarding the fences, etc., so that Afghan refugees don't come. And if they do come in the future, we are not going to accept them because we can't. The capacity is full. Enough. Now, the whole thing about migration, whether be it from Syria, whether be it from Afghanistan or other countries, etc., you need to think about, okay, economic migration is something else. But security and livelihood migration is something else. If a person can no longer attain the livelihood to take care of his or her children, and they're in a country where the security situation is in dire straits, of course they're going to look for a place where they can live comfortably. So migration is going to increase, where it's going to come from the south to the north, it's going to come from the east to the west, and sometimes where they're situated, it might even go towards the east. It depends where it's going from. So we are going to see, all of us, we are going to see more and more migratory movements. Climate change is going to happen as well. In the Middle East, you talked about the Middle East before, water scarcity. In Africa, water scarcity, food scarcity. All of this is going to have a tremendous effect on all of us. So this is a reality we all have to think about. Building borders, maintaining them, it's fine, but everybody has to share the burden. You cannot accept or expect a single country or a couple of countries taking all of the burden when nobody else takes the burden. It's not human.
Sure. Turkey has big experience in dealing with migration policy. I mean, I believe that Poland can learn from Turkey in this case. That's one of the biggest challenges in future years, and I believe that we should watch how Turkey policy is going. And moving to Polish-Turkish relationship, and maybe even Ukrainian, because there was a deal with Bayrak and TB2, this military drones. Do you think that this deal can possibly be a step towards mutual significant cooperation between Poland, Turkey, and Ukraine?
Well, between Turkey and Poland, we already have significant cooperation. If you look at the Turkish-Polish relationship, look at that. That's the H.E agreement. That's 1400s, or what is it, 1600? No, 1400s. And then from when you look at the history, we have over 600 years of relationship between Turkey and Poland, or between the Ottoman Empire and the then Lithuanian Polish. You call it kingdom, right? The kingdom, yeah. And so it's over 600 years of diplomatic relationship when you think about it, and social, political, economic relationship. Turkey and the Turks were the only country who never recognized the partition of Poland. You know, that's something that most Polish people know about. They read this in the history. We've never accepted it in our past. So we have a very good relationship. We have a place called Adampol, Polonezköy in Turkey, for example, where in the 1700s, a sizable contingent of Poles with Prince Adam went to Turkey. Now went to the Ottoman Empire, which was then. Now, the relationship today is very good. We have $6 billion worth of trade, and this year we might even have $7 billion of trade. So this is the first time I'm saying it, but the figures are looking very good. Tourism, we're going to each other's countries more and more. Poland is the number one destination for Turkish students who are coming to the EU with Erasmus. With Erasmus Plus students, we have 3,500 Turkish students who are coming here with Erasmus. every year. So more and more Turkish students are learning about Poland, and we have approximately 1,800 Polish students who go to Turkey. So it's a big number of people coming and going to each other. Now, concerning the relationship, we've had a strategic relationship since 2009. So buying Bayraktar or any other armament from Turkey shouldn't be a surprise. We are both NATO member states, and we are both members of different international and regional organizations to which we both adhere to together, and we have a very close relationship. And when you look at Poland and Turkey, we are quite similar in some ways, because we are situated in such a place where you know of the East, but you're of the West. We are situated in a place where we are between the East and the West. So when you look at what's happening geopolitically, when the East and the West collide, Poland and Turkey are the first ones to realize something is happening and you have to act fast. So we are very similar in many ways. And since I've been here, I've also found that your family structure is very similar to us. Very, very similar. And that's been very pleasant to watch and to learn about. And now concerning what's happening with Bayraktar, with Ukraine also, we have a very good relationship. And there are neighbors in the Black Sea. They're just north of us in the Black Sea. So we have a very good developing relationship with them. They also have bought Turkish arms and defense equipment. So I think Bayraktar will not be Baykar 2 or TB2 as it's known, will not be the only, hopefully it will not be the only arms that Poland will buy from a fellow NATO member. We are developing very fast in the arms industry, as we've developed in many other infrastructure that I've talked to you about. And we are producing some very technologically advanced systems. So it won't be a surprise if Poland, Turkey, other member states of NATO collaborate and cooperate much more further in the future.
Fantastic. And what can possibly be the significant step that Poland can make to even strengthen Polish-Turkish relationship?
I think we are seeing eye to eye already on many ways. We are working very, very closely. You've had the visit of President Duda to Turkey, and he had many ministers with him and many bureaucrats and high-level dignitaries who came. So they had talks in many different fields, from social issues to economic issues to cultural issues to tourism to economics to development, defense industry, everything you can think about. Even artificial intelligence or nanotechnology or engineering, all of these issues are areas where we can collaborate. And that's our job. And this is what I'm trying to do as well. Your embassy in Ankara and our embassy here in Warsaw are working very hard to develop all the relationship in all the fields as much as we can.
Okay, so last question, I would say, in this official interview. What would you like? What would you like for Poles to be heard about Turkey? What message you would like to send to Poles, to young people especially?
Well, to the young people in general, what I would like is, one thing I've realized is that Poles seem to get information about Turkey mainly from Western sources. And it seems to be quite negative in tone. It's very similar to how Poland is being treated by Western sources of the media. It's always regarding human rights and democratic movements and this and that and LGBT rights, etc., etc. How you are being treated in the Western media is very, very similar to how we are being treated in the Western media. It's never like this. It's never black or white. So what I would recommend Poles, whether be it young or old, it doesn't matter. Go and see the country for yourself and then decide. Already hundreds of thousands, a million Poles are already going to Turkey every year. But don't go only to the beach and stay on the beach and just enjoy the sun. please go and see the people, interact with the Turks, see the country itself. It's a very big country, very diverse country, and there's a lot of similarities in our cultures. Okay, you have, you're Christian, we are Muslim, but some of the orientation of our common values, family values, etc., it's so similar. It's so similar. And modern day life is the same in all countries. It doesn't matter what faith you come from. It doesn't matter what religion you come from. So what I would recommend is go and see it for yourself and make up your own decision.
I'm sure that we will consider it as an invitation.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I've received a message that my colleague would like to ask one more question.
Yes, of course.
About geopolitical future of Turkey, because you heard about George Friedman, one of the most popular geopolitical experts in the world, and when he wrote a book, The Next 100 Years, he talked about two countries that will increase their, we can say, geopolitical position in the world.
Yes, that was Monaco and Liechtenstein, right?
It was Poland and Turkey, yes. And do you think that Turkey will be, we can say, the leader of the Arab world?
Well, Turkey is not an Arabic country; it's a Turkic country. It's we're not. When you talk about Turkey and the Arab world, it's very different. Would you be leading, for example, the Buddhist world? It's not the same thing. It's very, very different. For us, I think what Turkey is, it's a bridge between the East and West. I think it's going to be a country where we are doing, for example, our trade, our economics is linked to Europe. So more than 50% of our economy is linked to Europe. So one foot will always be in Europe, and one foot will be in Asia. Another foot, well, we have many foots. Another foot will be in in the Middle East, where predominantly, of course, it's Arabic, but there's also Israel and there's others. So basically, I think I would say it's a country that has a bright future, and it's developing very fast, same as Poland. And these are countries, like I said, Poland and Turkey are situated in such geopolitical places that we live and we understand both the East and the West, both the North and the South. In terms of Turkey, when we look at North, we understand the North. When we look at South, we understand the South. When we look at, we can go around in all of this geography, and don't limit us only to the context of Arab world, because we're not Arab, first of all. Turks are a different race. So it's a different thing. It's a different thing. But if you talk about the Muslim world in that sense, for example, the Muslim world also it's a big variety. You have Malaysia, you have more Muslim people in India than most other countries around the world, or you have a huge Muslim contingent in Russia, for example. Nearly 50 million people in Russia of Muslim origin, when you think about it. So it's also a little bit of a gray area. It's not that black and white when you look at it. It's a long conversation we can have another day. But I would say Poland and Turkey, I think Friedman is right. I wouldn't be as ambitious as him to say that Turkey and Poland will become the next, superpowers in the next century. But, but I do agree with him that Poland and Turkey have bright futures ahead of them, both of the countries, definitely.
You can say that Turkey is the leader of the region, but do you think that Turkey will be the member of the European Union someday? Maybe.
Why not? Why not? It's all a matter of developing according to, if you look at the European Union from the point of view of if it's going to be only Christian values, etc., if you put the value-based system on Christianity, then of course it will be difficult. Because some member states obviously do talk about this. But if you talk about a value-based system based on democracy, rule of law, development of economic relationship, etc., and how people act together and work together, then yes, in the future, yes.
It's not the trend, I would say.
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay. Officially, thank you. Thank you for your time.
I thank you. And good luck to you.